"Henry, watch your step there." My voice barely left my throat before I heard the sickening crack. Not of wood, not of stone, but of something hitting something else with force. My grandson's boot had slipped on the loose gravel near the cliff edge, exactly where I'd seen them tampering with the railing an hour before. I lunged forward, my 68-year-old legs protesting, my hand outstretched. For a fraction of a second, our fingers touched. His eyes went wide, not with fear, but with recognition. He knew. In that split second before gravity took him, Henry knew this wasn't an accident. Then came the second crack. This one was me, hitting the ground as someone shoved me hard from behind. My shoulder struck the rocky earth, and white-hot pain exploded through my chest. Through my blurred vision, I saw him, Marcus, my grandson's business partner, standing there with his wife, Henry's girlfriend of 3 years, Rachel, both wearing expressions that weren't quite shocked enough. "Oh my God!" Rachel's scream was theatrical, too theatrical. "Mr. Peterson! Henry! Someone help!" I tried to move, tried to push myself up, but my left arm wouldn't respond. Broken collarbone, maybe worse. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard Henry's groan from below. Not dead. Not yet. The cliff wasn't sheer, about 40 feet of rocky slope dotted with scrub brush before it dropped another 30 to the ravine floor. He'd caught on something. "Call 911. I managed to rasp out. My chest felt like someone was standing on it. "No signal up here," Marcus said, already pulling out his phone with exaggerated concern. "I'll have to drive down to the main road. Rachel, you stay with Mr. Peterson." He met his wife's eyes. Something passed between them. A look I'd seen before, in Kandahar, when local contractors tried to sell us faulty equipment they knew would fail. The look of people who'd planned something and were watching it unfold exactly as expected. "I'll go with you," Rachel said quickly. "He might need immediate transport, and your truck is bigger." "No." I forced the word out through gritted teeth. "Stay, both of you. Mr. Peterson, you're hurt. We need to get help." Rachel crouched beside me, her hand on my good shoulder, pressing down just slightly, making it harder to breathe, making sure I couldn't move. "Then go," I wheezed. "Get help. Now." Marcus hesitated. They'd planned this for when we'd be alone, I realized. The two of them could claim Henry slipped. I tried to save him and fell too. And by the time anyone arrived, but with me conscious and watching, they couldn't finish whatever they'd started. 5 minutes, Marcus said. "I'll be back with help in 5 minutes. He took off at a run toward where we'd parked the trucks, a quarter-mile down the trail. Rachel stayed beside me, her face a mask of concern that didn't reach her eyes. "Just try to stay calm, Mr. Peterson. Help is coming, below us." I heard Henry groan again, still alive, still aware. I tried to calculate. The rocky slope had caught him maybe 30 feet down. If he could hold on, if he stayed conscious. "We should try to get to him," I said, testing her. "You're injured. We should wait for professionals. You could climb down. You're young, fit, and risk falling myself? Mr. Peterson, I know you're worried, but we have to be smart about this." Smart. That's what she thought they were being. Smart. They didn't know who they were dealing with. They saw a retired old man who'd spent the last decade restoring vintage cars and teaching Henry everything I knew about engines and metalwork. They saw someone who minded his own business, who didn't ask questions when Rachel insisted on being named beneficiary on Henry's new life insurance policy, who didn't make a fuss when the policy amount was raised to $2 million 6 months ago. They didn't know that before I restored cars, I'd restored order in places where order had broken down completely. They didn't know that the quiet old man who taught their victim mechanical skills had once been Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Peterson, United States Army Intelligence. They didn't know that the skills that made me good at finding IEDs and uncovering insurgent networks didn't simply evaporate when I retired. And they definitely didn't know about James. "Rachel," I said, my voice steadier now despite the pain. I'd been adjusting to it, compartmentalizing like I'd been trained to do. "How long have you and Marcus been planning this?" Her head snapped toward me. "Excuse me? The railing. I saw you two up here this morning, before Henry and I arrived. You loosened those bolts. And just now, Marcus pushed me. I felt his hand. You're confused. You hit your head. No, I didn't. Broke my collarbone and maybe some ribs, but my head is fine. You're sleeping with your boyfriend's business partner. The life insurance policy that names you as beneficiary even though you and Henry aren't married. The fact that you insisted on this hiking trip to my property despite Henry mentioning 3 times that he's afraid of heights. Her face had gone carefully blank. You're in shock. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. And I know Marcus isn't going for help. He's going to sit in his truck for 20 minutes, then come back and claim he couldn't get through. By then, Henry will have lost his grip and fallen the rest of the way. And I'll have gone into shock from my injuries and maybe won't remember the details clearly. That's the plan, isn't it? She stood up slowly. Her hand moved to her pocket. Looking for your phone? I asked. To call Marcus? Tell him the old man is onto you? I should check on Henry. Don't. I put command into my voice, the tone I'd used with subordinates who were about to make fatal mistakes. Don't go near him. Don't move. Just stand there. To my satisfaction, she froze. Old habits die hard. People who aren't used to real authority can be paralyzed by it when applied correctly. From my position on the ground, I could reach into my jacket pocket with my right hand. The movement sent fire through my chest, but I bit back the groan. My fingers closed around my phone. No service. Marcus had been right about that. But it didn't matter. I navigated to my contacts by memory, found the name I needed, and hit a button I'd hoped I'd never need to hit. The phone emitted a single, sharp tone. No call connected, no message sent. Just that one tone. Rachel was watching me nervously. What was that? Insurance, I said. My own insurance policy. There's no signal? There doesn't need to be. I closed my eyes, letting my head rest against the rock. The emergency beacon in my phone, a modification James had insisted on when he'd given me the device, didn't need cell service. It used satellite. And it only did one thing. Tell James exactly where I was and that I needed help. Immediately. The first time James had explained it to me, I'd laughed. I'm retired, I'd told him. Living in rural Montana, working on cars. What am I going to need emergency extraction for? Tommy, he'd said, using the nickname only he was allowed to use. Trouble doesn't retire just because you did. Humor me. James Sullivan. Major James Sullivan when I'd last served with him, though he'd made it to colonel before his own retirement. Now he ran a private security consulting firm, which was a polite way of saying he fixed problems for people who had the money to pay and the sense to ask. We'd served 3 tours together. He'd saved my life in Mosul. I'd returned the favor in Afghanistan. When we'd both gotten out, we'd stayed close. Brothers, though not by blood. Who did you call? Rachel's voice had an edge of panic now. A friend. He'll be here soon. You said there was no signal? There isn't. Cellular signal. But there are other ways to communicate. I opened my eyes and looked at her. Really looked at her. She was young, maybe 26. Pretty in that carefully maintained way that spoke of salon visits and expensive skincare. Henry had been so proud when he'd started dating her. My grandson really loved you, I said. You know that? Something flickered across her face. Guilt? Regret? It was gone too quickly to tell. After his parents died, my son and daughter-in-law, I raised him. Did he tell you that? From age 12 on, it was just us. I taught him everything. How to change oil. How to rebuild an engine. How to weld. How to frame a house. I taught him how to be a good man. How to trust people. How to love openly. My voice cracked, and this time it wasn't from pain. And you used that. You saw a good man with skills and potential and a trusting heart, and you decided to kill him for insurance money. That's not we didn't. She was backing away now. Rachel. Henry's voice came from below, weak but conscious. Rachel, help me. My leg is caught. But I think I can pull free if... Don't move, I shouted down, then winced at the pain it caused. Henry, stay exactly where you are. Don't try to climb. Mr. P, are you hurt? I'm fine. Just stay put. That's exactly what you should do, Rachel said loudly. We've called for help, Henry. It's coming. I watched her face as she said it. She was calculating. How long until Marcus came back? How long until real help might arrive? How long could she keep up this act? Tell me something, I said. Was any of it real? Did you ever actually care about him? She looked down at me, and for a moment, the mask slipped. What I saw underneath wasn't evil, exactly. It was something more banal, and somehow worse. Indifference. Henry had been a means to an end. A nice enough guy who happened to be worth more dead than alive. He's boring, she said quietly. Do you know that? He talks about camshafts and metal tolerances and his plans to open a custom shop. He's 28 years old, and he acts like he's 40. Marcus. Marcus has vision. We're going to move to California, start a real business. Not some garage in the middle of nowhere. With the $2 million from Henry's life insurance. With capital. Initial investment. That's all it is. That's my grandson's life. He won't feel anything. The fall will be quick. The casual cruelty of it struck me harder than Marcus's shove had. This wasn't a crime of passion or desperation. It was cold accounting. Henry's life on one side of the ledger, their dreams on the other. How did Marcus become part of this? I asked. Keep her talking. James would be mobilizing now. The beacon put him on alert, and I knew how he operated. He'd have people in the air within minutes, on the ground within an hour. I just needed Henry to hold on, and I needed these two to not do anything else stupid. He's always been part of it, since the beginning. We met at the gym, started talking, realized we wanted the same things. She said it like it was a love story. Henry was the opportunity. Good guy, stable job, trusting. Easy to manipulate into a big insurance policy. And if I died in the fall, instead of just getting injured? She shrugged. Tragic accident. You tried to save your grandson, fell in the attempt. Very heroic. Would have made the funeral service even more touching. Footsteps on the trail. Marcus, returning. He took in the scene, me on the ground in the same position. Rachel, standing over me, and nodded approvingly. No signal anywhere, he announced. We're going to have to drive down to the ranger station. It's about 40 minutes round trip. 40 minutes, I repeated. And by the time you get back? Marcus's expression was sympathetic. Hopefully your grandson can hold on that long. These kinds of accidents. Sometimes people go into shock, lose their grip. There's only so much we can do. You pushed me, I said flatly. He blinked. What? When Henry fell, you pushed me. I felt your hand. Mr. Peterson, you're confused. You must have lost your balance trying to help. I was 5 feet from the edge. I'm not confused, and I'm not senile. You pushed me. And before that, you loosened the railing that Henry slipped on. I saw you and Rachel up here this morning. Before we arrived, I came early to scout the trail, saw your truck. I watched you through binoculars from the ridge. Marcus and Rachel exchanged glances. The pretense was falling away. Actually, Marcus said slowly, it's going to take longer than 40 minutes to get help. These remote areas, you know. Communication is tricky. Could be hours. Hours, Rachel agreed. Anything could happen in hours. They were going to do it. Not wait for Henry to fall. Not hope exposure and shock would finish the job. They were going to climb down and push him off themselves, and probably ensure I didn't survive either. Last chance, I said. Walk away now. Take your truck, drive away, and I'll forget this happened. Marcus laughed. Forget this happened? You just accused us of attempted murder. You really think we're going to just walk away? I think you have no idea who you're dealing with. You're an old man with a broken shoulder, lying on the ground in the middle of nowhere. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Then you're stupider than you look. His face darkened. He took a step toward me, fists clenching. Rachel put a hand on his arm. We need to check on Henry first, she said. Make sure he doesn't slip. They moved toward the cliff edge. I tried to push myself up, but my body wasn't cooperating. The pain in my chest had spread, making it hard to breathe. Broken ribs? Definitely. Maybe punctured lung. I was running out of time. Henry! I shouted. They're coming to kill you! Don't let them near you! Fight back! Marcus spun around. Shut up. He crossed back to me in 3 strides and kicked me in the ribs. The world went white with pain. I might have blacked out for a second. When my vision cleared, he was leaning over me. Here's what's going to happen, he said conversationally. You're going to lie here quietly while Rachel and I check on poor Henry. We're going to try to help him, but tragically, he's going to lose his grip. Terrible accident. And you, well, you'll be too injured and in too much shock to stop us or to accurately remember what happened. By the time we get back with help, you'll be unconscious from your injuries. Traumatic memory loss. Very common in situations like this. Marcus, I wheezed. You're making a mistake. No, old man. You made the mistake. Should have minded your own business. Should have been happy we were taking your grandson off your hands. Now you're going to watch him die. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. He straightened up, turned back toward the cliff. Rachel was already at the edge, looking down. Henry, she called sweetly. We're coming to help you, baby. Just hang on. From below. Rachel, thank God. I'm stuck. My leg is wedged between two rocks. If you can get a rope, we'll figure something out, she said. They were going to do it right in front of me, make me watch. And I couldn't stop them. My body had betrayed me, my strength gone. I'd spent decades learning how to fight, how to survive, how to overcome impossible odds. None of it mattered now. I was broken on the ground, helpless, while my grandson, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd shaped, my only family died within earshot. Unless I'd pressed the beacon, James knew. But James was probably hours away, even mobilizing at full speed. Too far, too late. But there was one more thing I could do. I still had my phone. No cell service, but that didn't matter. Before we'd left this morning, when I was in town picking up supplies, I'd done something I'd hoped would be unnecessary. James had taught me paranoia years ago. Always have a backup plan, he'd said. And a backup to the backup. While Marcus and Rachel had been at my house loading Henry's gear, I'd driven into town. I'd gone to the sheriff's office. I'd asked to speak to Deputy Miller, a young guy I'd known since he was in high school. I'd told him I was worried about the hiking trip, about Henry's girlfriend and her friend pushing for this remote location. I'd told him it was probably nothing, just an old man's paranoia. But would he mind checking on us around noon if he didn't hear from me? I'd played it off as concern about my own age and the difficult terrain. Deputy Miller had been understanding, patronizing even. Sure, Mr. Peterson. I'll swing by if I don't hear from you. No problem. It was 11:47 a.m. Now, in 13 minutes, if I hadn't checked in, Deputy Miller would start heading this way. But 13 minutes was too long. By then, Henry would be dead. My phone had no signal. But it had one more trick. Another modification, courtesy of James's persistent insistence on redundancy. A short-range emergency radio transmitter, powerful enough to reach any emergency responders within a few miles. I managed to pull the phone from my pocket again, navigated to the app, hit the button. A piercing alarm erupted from my phone. Not a ringtone, an emergency distress signal that would broadcast on all emergency channels. Anyone with a police radio, fire radio, emergency services radio within range would hear it, including Deputy Miller, if he was anywhere close to the northern end of the county. Marcus whirled around. What the hell is that? Emergency beacon, I said through bloody teeth. I must have bitten my tongue when he kicked me, broadcasting our exact GPS coordinates. Every cop, every park ranger, every emergency responder in 50 miles just got an alert. His face went pale. Shut it off. Can't. Once activated, it runs until emergency services acknowledge receipt. Could be minutes, could be half an hour. But they're coming now. Rachel was pulling at Marcus's arm. We need to go, right now. We can't just leave. Yes, we can. We haven't done anything yet. We were here. He fell. His grandfather fell, trying to help. We went for assistance. That's the story. But if we're still here when cops arrive... Marcus looked from her to me to the cliff edge. I could see him calculating. Could they finish it? Could they kill Henry, kill me, and make it look like accidents before help arrived? Or would they be caught in the act? The sound of an engine, distant but growing closer. A truck, moving fast on the access road. Shit! Marcus grabbed Rachel's hand. Come on! They ran. I heard their boots on the trail, heard them crashing through brush, as they took a shortcut toward where they'd parked. Heard their truck start up, rev high, peel out. Gone. I let my head fall back against the rock. Every breath was agony. But Henry was alive. The truck sound grew louder. Not Marcus and Rachel, this was coming from the other direction. Within 3 minutes, Deputy Miller's patrol truck came into view. Emergency lights flashing. He jumped out, radio already in hand. "Mr. Peterson, I got your distress signal. What happened?" "My grandson," I managed. "Over the cliff, caught on the rocks, still alive. Hurry." Miller was already calling it in. "More help coming. Fire and rescue, medical helicopter if needed." He grabbed a rope from his truck, secured it, started rappelling down before I could tell him the full story. 2 minutes later, "I've got him. He's alive. Legs trapped, but he's conscious." I closed my eyes, let myself drift. My job was done. Henry was safe. The rest would come. 3 hours later, I was in the hospital. Broken collarbone, 4 broken ribs, 1 cracked, possible punctured lung. They were keeping me for observation. Henry was 2 rooms down. Broken leg, fractured ankle, some cuts and bruises. But alive, conscious, safe. Deputy Miller had taken my statement. I'd told him everything. The loosened railing, Marcus pushing me, their plan, their admission. He'd put out a bolo on Marcus and Rachel. They'd been picked up at the state border, trying to flee to Idaho. And then, at 8 p.m., James walked in. He looked exactly as I remembered from 6 months ago when I'd last seen him. 52 years old, built like he could still pass ranger school, gray creeping into his close-cropped hair. He wore jeans and a leather jacket, but he moved like he was still in uniform. "Tommy," he said, pulling up a chair. "You pressed the button." "Yeah." "You okay?" "I will be." "Your grandson?" "Alive." "Thanks to Deputy Miller getting there fast." James nodded. "I had a helicopter in the air 40 minutes after you hit the beacon. By the time we landed, the local cops had the scene secured. I spoke with the deputy. Good kid. Quick thinking. You didn't need to come." "Yes, I did. You hit the button. That means you needed me." He leaned forward. "Tell me what happened." I did. All of it. The insurance policy I'd discovered when doing Henry's taxes. The suspicions I'd had about Rachel and Marcus. The way I'd gone to check on them this morning and seen them tampering with the railing. How I'd set up the backup plan with Deputy Miller, just in case. "You knew," James said when I finished. "Before you went up there, you knew they might try something." I suspected, wasn't sure. But when you've spent as many years as I have reading people, looking for deception, you develop instincts. Rachel was too interested in Henry's finances. Marcus was around too much for just a business partner. And that insurance policy, no way. A 28-year-old mechanic needs $2 million in coverage, not with his girlfriend as beneficiary when they're not even married. So, you set a trap. I set up safety nets. There's a difference. I hoped I was wrong. But if I wasn't, I wanted to make sure someone knew where we were and would come looking if things went wrong. James was quiet for a moment. Then, "You want them taken care of?" I knew what he meant. James's company didn't just do consulting. They did 2 other things. For the right price, for the right reasons, they fixed problems that couldn't be fixed through official channels. "No," I said. "This one goes through the system. Deputy Miller has their confession on his body cam. They'll go to prison." "You sure?" "They tried to kill your grandson. They tried to kill you, I'm sure. They're stupid and cruel, but they're not professionals. They'll crack an interrogation. They'll turn on each other. The system will handle them." James nodded slowly. "You're a better man than me." "No. Just an old man who wants his grandson to see justice done the right way. To see that the world isn't all darkness, that there are rules and they matter." I shifted in the bed, wincing at the pain. I've done things the other way. We both have. I don't want Henry growing up knowing that's the only way. He's 28. He's already grown up. He's 28 with a broken heart and a broken leg, learning that someone he loved tried to kill him for money. He's going to need help getting past that. He's going to need to see that good still wins, that justice still matters. I can't give him that if I'm doing things the dark way. James smiled faintly. When did you get so philosophical? Around the time I started raising a teenager. Changes your perspective. There was a knock at the door. A nurse stuck her head in. Mr. Peterson, your grandson is asking for you. Can I see him? We'll wheel you down. You shouldn't walk yet. 10 minutes later, I was sitting next to Henry's bed. His leg was in a cast, elevated. His face was pale, scratched, and bruised, but his eyes were clear. Mr. P, he said. His voice cracked. Rachel and Marcus. I know. The deputy told you? Yeah. I can't believe. I believed you when you shouted down to me, but hearing them admit it to the cops. He trailed off, staring at the ceiling. She was going to kill me. For insurance money. Like I was just a thing. Not a person. Not someone she'd lived with for 3 years. I'm sorry, Henry. Don't be sorry. You saved my life. If you hadn't been suspicious, if you hadn't set up that backup plan with Deputy Miller. He looked at me. How did you know? I didn't know. I suspected. And I learned a long time ago to trust my instincts and plan for worst-case scenarios. From the Army. Yeah, from the Army, Mr. P. There's something I don't understand. When I was on that cliff, I heard you shouting, and then I heard Rachel and Marcus talking. They were talking about killing me, about how long it would take help to arrive. But then suddenly they ran away. What happened? I activated an emergency beacon, and an old friend of mine taught me to always have multiple backups. Deputy Miller was already on his way when the beacon went off. Marcus and Rachel realized they were out of time. You planned for this. All of this. I planned for the possibility. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, who are you? I know you're my grandfather. I know you served in the Army. But there's more, isn't there? The emergency beacon, the backup plans, the way you stayed calm when you were injured and they were going to kill you. That's not normal. I'd known this conversation would come eventually. I'd hoped it would be later, under better circumstances. But Henry was owed the truth. Before I retired and started restoring cars, I was in Army intelligence, I said. I did things I can't talk about in places you've heard of on the news. I learned how to read people, how to spot threats, how to plan for contingencies. When I got out and your parents died, I tried to leave all that behind. I wanted to be just a normal grandfather, teaching you normal things like how to rebuild an engine. But you couldn't leave it all behind. No. Some skills stick with you. Some instincts never go away. When I started getting suspicious about Rachel, I couldn't just ignore it. I had to investigate. And when the evidence pointed to something bad, I had to prepare. You have a friend who can send helicopters. I have a friend who runs a security consulting company, James. He and I served together. When I pressed that emergency beacon, he mobilized his team. They were on their way to help, but Deputy Miller got there first. Henry processed this. I could see him fitting pieces together, reassessing memories. That time those guys tried to rob the shop last year. You didn't just scare them off. You did something to them. I came back from the supply run, and they were on the ground, crying, begging to leave. And you just said you'd talk to them. But that's not what happened, is it? They pulled a gun on me. I disarmed them, that's all. Both of them? 2 guys with guns, and you at 68 years old disarmed both of them? I'm 68, not dead. And they were amateurs. I reached over with my good hand and gripped his. Henry, I need you to understand something. I taught you to be a good man, to trust people, to see the best in them, to lead with your heart. I don't regret that. That's who I want you to be. But I also need you to learn when to be cautious. Not paranoid, not cynical, but aware. There are bad people in the world. Not everyone deserves your trust. Rachel, he said bitterly. I trusted Rachel, and that's on her, not you. She betrayed that trust. She's the one at fault. But you need to learn to see the signs, the inconsistencies, the behaviors that don't add up. If something feels wrong, it probably is. How do I do that without becoming paranoid like you? I smiled, despite the pain. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared. There's a difference. Paranoid is seeing threats everywhere, trusting no one. Prepared is understanding that threats exist and having plans in place for for the worst-case scenario while still living your life normally. Is that what you've been doing? Living normally while secretly being prepared? Yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing. He squeezed my hand. Thank you for being prepared. Thank you for saving my life. You're welcome. But Henry, you need to know this isn't over. There's going to be a trial. You're going to have to testify, face Rachel in court. It's going to be hard. I can do it. I know you can. And I'll be there with you every step of the way. 6 months later, I stood in the back of the courtroom as the jury foreman read the verdict. Marcus Turner and Rachel Westbrook, guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, insurance fraud, conspiracy. Between them, they were looking at 40 to 60 years. Henry sat in the front row, his leg now healed, his face impassive. He'd testified for 2 days, calmly detailing the relationship, the insurance policy, the hike. When Rachel's defense attorney tried to imply he'd somehow been complicit or unaware, Henry had shut him down with facts and timelines that left no room for doubt. My boy had learned. He'd learned to see clearly, to think strategically, to trust but verify. He'd kept the good heart I'd cultivated in him, but he'd added steel to it, exactly what I'd hoped for. After the sentencing, we walked out of the courthouse together. James was waiting by his car. He'd testified too, about the emergency beacon, about my military background, about why my paranoia wasn't paranoia but earned caution. Buy you boys a drink? James asked. Yeah, I said. I think we've earned it. At the bar, James raised his glass. To preparation. To survival, Henry added. To family, I finished. We drank. Later, after James had left and it was just Henry and me, he asked the question I'd been expecting. Are you going to teach me? He said. The other stuff. The intelligence work, the threat assessment, the self-defense, all of it. Why would you want to learn that? Because twice now, I've needed it. Once when those guys tried to rob the shop. Once when Rachel tried to kill me. I don't want there to be a third time when I'm not prepared. And he paused, choosing his words carefully because it's part of you. You taught me engines and metalwork and how to run a business. But there's this whole other part of you that I never knew about. I want to know all of you. I want to learn everything you know. I studied my grandson, 29 now, matured by trauma, but not broken by it. Still fundamentally good, but no longer naively trusting. The exact balance I'd hoped to strike. Okay, I said, but we do it my way. You don't become paranoid. You don't become cynical. You learn the skills, but you keep the heart. Deal? Deal. Then we start tomorrow. James has agreed to help. We'll teach you properly. But Henry, promise me something. What? Use these skills to protect, not to punish. Use them to save people, not to hurt them. Use them to make the world safer, not more dangerous. Can you promise me that? He held out his hand. We shook. I promise, Mr. P. 2 years later, I got a call. James, asking if I could recommend someone for a security consulting position, entry level, but with room to grow. Someone with mechanical aptitude, intelligence, and the right temperament. I gave him Henry's number. 6 months after that, Henry came by the shop. He was wearing tactical gear, looked more fit than I'd ever seen him. He'd just gotten back from his first assignment providing security for a corporate executive visiting a dangerous area. How was it? I asked. Intense, but good. I spotted 2 potential threats before they developed. Redirected the client both times. No incidents, no problems. That's the job. Prevention over reaction. Yeah, he paused. Mr. P, I've been thinking about what happened with Rachel and Marcus, about how you prepared, how you saved us both, and I realized something. What's that? You didn't just save my life that day on the cliff. You saved it years before, by teaching me to be the kind of person worth saving, by showing me what it means to be a good man who's also a strong man, by being paranoid enough to see the threat, but restrained enough to let the law handle it. I felt my throat tighten. You turned out pretty damn good, kid. I had a good teacher. He smiled. So when are you going to let me teach you about modern engines? All this electric vehicle stuff you're so suspicious of? I'm not suspicious. I'm skeptical. There's a difference. Sounds like paranoia to me. Sounds like preparation. We both laughed. Outside, The Montana sunset painted the mountains gold and purple. The shop was quiet, peaceful, but underneath that peace, I knew, was steel. Preparation, the knowledge that if threats came again, we'd be ready. Not paranoid, prepared. And there's all the difference in the world between those two things.